I always believed love breaks slowly. A disagreement here, a forgotten promise there, a quiet night, a cold morning, a tiny crack that spreads over time. But in my life, it didn't break slowly. It shattered in one moment because of one lie. My name is Danielle Carter, 34 years old. I live in a peaceful suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. A warm little house with soft lights and calmer nights, a place I once believed was my safe world. By day, I work as a school counselor. I help children face their fears, their trauma, their broken families. Never knowing my own life was slowly stepping toward its own breakdown. My husband, Marcus, my best friend, my comfort, the man I thought I would grow old with, used to tell me, "Love is easy with you, Danny. You make everything simple." But for months now, something inside him had changed. Not neglect, something far worse. Distance. He started coming home late. At first, once or twice a week, then 4 days a week, then almost every night. I would set the dinner table, waiting for him. He'd text, "Don't wait up for me, eat without me." At first, I didn't think much of it. Work gets busy, deadlines happen, people get stressed. But when busy becomes a pattern, something is always wrong. I didn't suspect anything, not at first, because I trusted him. And marriage, after all, is built on trust. The first night I truly felt something was off. Marcus came home at 1:40 a.m. I was awake. He opened the door quietly, walked inside with that familiar mix of cologne and winter air, but something else lingered too. A scent. A strange one. Not familiar, not mine. I asked softly, "Late again?" He gave a small smile, took off his jacket, and said, "Project's a mess, Danny. You know how it is." "I see," I replied, and kept my doubts buried in silence. But something in the way he smiled, or the way he avoided my eyes, it wasn't him. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe he is busy. Maybe stress is getting to him. Maybe this is all normal. That word, maybe, became my daily companion. But a woman's heart, her intuition, never really stays silent. It whispers, then it nudges, then it screams. Marcus had no idea that even the smallest lie, spoken casually, delivered easily, can slowly ruin the foundation of a marriage. Every late night I'm working was a brick being quietly removed from the home we built together. And I didn't know then that this one lie would lead me to a night that would change my life forever. A night that began with this quiet, invisible, deadly lie. The next few weeks moved slowly, the kind of slow that weighs on your chest, that makes every hour feel heavier than the last. Every evening, around 6:30, I would set the table for two. I would warm the food, plate it nicely, try to make the home feel welcoming. I wasn't trying to impress him. I just wanted us back. But every night, like clockwork, my phone would buzz. "Marcus, running late again. Don't wait up." Sometimes he added an excuse. "Client call. Server crashed. Need to finish a report." But most nights, just those three cold words. running late again. Dinner turned cold. The chair across from me stayed empty. On the second week, I stopped lighting candles. On the third, I stopped cooking altogether. I started eating in silence, one hand on my fork, the other holding on to the little thread of belief that maybe this was just a temporary phase. But slowly, that belief began to fall apart. The distance wasn't just physical. Marcus stopped talking, stopped sharing, stopped laughing. He used to tell me everything, even things I didn't ask for. Now, when he walked in at 1 or 2 a.m., his eyes were blank, his voice low, his smile forced. Some nights he didn't even come into the bedroom. He'd sleep on the couch, claiming exhaustion. But his excuses had holes. Too many holes. One night I heard the shower running at 2:15 a.m. Marcus never showered that late. When he came out, his shirt smelled like a different soap. Not our brand. Another night, he came home with his hoodie inside out. He claimed he was in a rush. Little things. Tiny things. But combined, they were loud. Still, I kept telling myself, "You're imagining it. You love him too much to believe he'd do this." But love doesn't blind you. It warns you. Painfully. Slowly. Loudly. When intuition turns into fear. One Thursday night, I waited until midnight, then 1 a.m., then 1:30. I called him. No answer. I called again. Still no answer. My heart began to race, not because I was afraid he was cheating, but because I was afraid something might have happened. Car accident, medical emergency, anything. I texted, "Are you okay?" No reply. At 2:07 a.m., I heard the front door unlock. Marcus stepped in, surprised to see me awake, his hair slightly damp, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes red, but not from work. "Why are you up?" he asked, quickly, too quickly. "I was worried," I said. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, avoiding eye contact entirely. "I told you I'd be late." "Late isn't the same as gone, Marcus." That made him pause. For a second, he looked guilty. Then he shook it off and muttered, "I'm stressed. Don't make this harder." Don't make this harder? What was this? Work? Us? Him? Her? I didn't know yet, but something in his voice felt like a wall being built brick by brick, pushing me out of his life. The night that cracked something inside me. The next evening, I tried something different. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't ask where he was. I simply waited. Not for him, but for myself. I sat on the couch with the TV playing softly and stared at the empty space beside me where he used to sit, laugh, tease me, hold my hand. At 11:49 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Marcus, still at work." But the way he punctuated it, the shortness, the tone felt off. A husband doesn't type like that to a wife he loves. That night, I whispered something quietly to myself. Something is wrong. So wrong. And that whisper was the beginning of the storm I didn't know was coming. If distance had a sound, I think it would be silence. A silence that isn't peaceful, but painfully loud. And that's exactly what Marcus became. A silent stranger living under the same roof. The man who used to love me loudly had become quiet. Marcus used to be loud with his love. He used to send me silly memes in the middle of the day. He used to wrap his arms around me in the kitchen while I cooked. He used to kiss my forehead every morning before leaving. Those little things, the touches, the glances, the jokes, the hugs, they were our rhythm. But lately, he had stopped all of it. No good morning kisses, no playful touches, no evening hugs. Just a distant look in his eyes that felt like he was staring through me, not at me. It didn't happen overnight. It happened in tiny moments that added up. Like the night he walked past me on the couch and didn't stop to sit beside me. Like the morning he finished his coffee without once looking up from his phone. Like the text he forgot to reply to until hours later with a simple, "Sorry, busy." But the worst part wasn't what he stopped doing. The worst part was what he started doing. He began protecting his phone like it was a secret he was holding close. The phone he never used to hide. Marcus used to leave his phone anywhere, on the counter, on the bed, on the sofa. He didn't care. He had nothing to hide. But now, he kept it face down. Always face down. He took it with him to the bathroom. He never let it leave his pocket. He would fling the screen shut so quickly if I even walked near him. Once, when I sat beside him on the couch, his lock screen lit up for just a second. I didn't see a name, but I saw one thing: a heart emoji. He turned the phone over instantly, his reaction too fast, too nervous, too guilty. He didn't say anything. Neither did I. But silence between a couple is its own kind of conversation. Marcus stopped asking about my day. One evening after work, I came home exhausted, emotionally drained from counseling a student who was dealing with a broken family. I walked in and said softly, "Today was rough. I really need—" Marcus didn't even look up. He kept his eyes on his laptop, murmured, "Mm-hmm," and kept typing. That wasn't my husband. My husband always listened, always cared, always held me when I was overwhelmed. I stood there for a moment, waiting for him to look up, for him to notice my voice shaking just slightly. He didn't. I walked quietly to the bedroom, closed the door, and cried into a pillow so he wouldn't hear. Not because of the distance, not because of the coldness, but because I realized something painful. He didn't care enough anymore to even pretend. The wall between us grew thicker. A week later, I finally asked him, "Marcus, is everything okay with us?" He looked up, just briefly, as if my question interrupted something important. He shrugged. "I'm fine, just tired." "Tired of work or tired of me?" I asked quietly. He froze. The question hit him hard, too hard for someone with nothing to hide. He didn't answer, not for a full 10 seconds. Then he whispered, barely audible, "I don't know." Those 3 words felt like someone had punched the air out of my chest. He didn't know? A man who once told me, "I want forever with you," now didn't know if he was tired of me? I stepped back. He didn't follow, didn't explain, didn't reach for me. He just stared at the floor. That's when I realized he wasn't pulling away because he was tired. He was pulling away because his heart was somewhere else. My hands were trying to hold on, while his were letting go. I tried to do everything a wife does when her marriage feels like it's slipping. I cooked his favorite meals. I tried to talk. I tried to reconnect. I even asked him if he wanted to take a weekend trip. He shook his head. We're both too busy. We? No, he was too busy. I was never too busy for him. Love is never too busy, but lies are. Night after night, Marcus came home later, and I knew he wasn't losing interest in me slowly. He had already lost it. I was just the last one to notice. And soon, his silence wasn't going to be just a wall. It was going to become the doorway to the truth I wasn't ready to see. Danielle had never felt time move so slowly. The next evening, she found herself pacing across the living room floor again, the soft glow of a single lamp casting long shadows across the walls. Outside, the street was quiet, too quiet for a Thursday night. Every distant car made her jump. Every sound from the hallway felt like a sign. Marcus still wasn't answering her texts. By 9:30 p.m., her chest was tight with worry, or maybe fear. She grabbed her keys, forced herself to breathe, and stepped out into the night. The cold air brushed against her cheeks, bringing a sharp clarity to her thoughts. If something feels wrong, it usually is. That's what her mother always used to say. She drove slowly through the neighborhood, windows cracked open just enough to let the breeze in. Her mind battled itself. Maybe he's working late. Maybe he lost track of time. Maybe everything is fine. But her gut kept rejecting every excuse. 10 minutes later, she reached Marcus's office building. The lights were off. Her heart sank. She wasn't the type to snoop. She hated who this situation was turning her into, but tonight her instincts were screaming. She drove around the block again, then down the side street that led behind the building. And that's when she saw it. Marcus's car, parked in the alley. But he wasn't alone. Through the windshield, Danielle caught a faint silhouette, two shadows inside. Her heart hammered as she pulled over, hands trembling on the steering wheel. She leaned forward. A woman was sitting in the passenger seat. Long hair, slim frame, head tilted toward Marcus, as if whispering something meant only for him. Danielle's breath caught in her throat. Her entire world slowed. She wasn't close enough to hear what they said, but she didn't need to. The way Marcus leaned in, too close, too comfortable, was enough to make her stomach twist. It wasn't innocent. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't a misunderstanding waiting to be explained. It was betrayal, unfolding right before her eyes. Danielle felt her vision blur as tears threatened to fall. For a moment, she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She wanted to scream his name, pound on the car window, demand the truth. But something held her back. Strength? Shock? Instinct? She couldn't tell. She slowly reversed her car and parked farther away, pulse pounding in her ears. Her hands felt cold and weak as she reached for her phone. This was the moment, the glimpse that would change everything. But instead of confronting him, she stared at the screen, paralyzed, unable to call or text. Her life had just split into a before and after, and she wasn't ready for the next step. Not yet. Danielle didn't remember how she drove home. Her hands were numb on the steering wheel, her eyes unfocused, her thoughts spiraling like a tornado she couldn't escape. The world outside blurred into streaks of streetlights and dark patches of sky. Her heart was beating too fast, too loud, as if trying to outrun the truth she had just witnessed. When she reached the driveway, she sat inside the car for several minutes, unable to move. Her home, once a place that felt warm, safe, filled with memories, now felt like an empty shell, a place built on lies. She finally stepped out, legs shaky, and pushed open the front door. The silence swallowed her. She leaned against the wall, slid down to the floor, and hugged her knees to her chest. Tears streamed down her face, silent and uncontrollable. She didn't sob out loud. There was no sound, no screaming, just quiet, devastating heartbreak. She kept replaying the moment in the alley. Marcus leaning in, the woman whispering, their shoulders almost touching. The familiarity, the intimacy. The kind you don't share with a coworker, the kind you don't hide unless you're guilty. Danielle wiped her cheeks, but the tears kept coming. Every breath felt heavy, every memory of their 10 years together felt like a wound reopening. She whispered to herself, "How long? Why? What did I do wrong?" The questions cut deeper than the answers she didn't yet have. Around midnight, she forced herself up. She splashed water on her face, but the mirror only reflected someone she didn't recognize. Someone broken, someone betrayed, someone who suddenly wasn't enough for the man she loved. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Running late, don't wait up. Love you." The audacity made her chest burn. He was texting her while with another woman, saying "love you" while betraying her without shame. Danielle stared at the message, her fingers trembling. For the first time, she didn't reply. Not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't trust her own words. She put the phone face down and crawled into bed. But sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the silhouette of that woman, the closeness, the lies. Marcus came home at 1:47 a.m. The door clicked softly, as if he was trying not to wake her. Footsteps, a hushed breath. Then the mattress dipped slightly as he lay beside her. Danielle kept her eyes closed, body still. Marcus whispered, "You awake?" She didn't answer. He reached to pull her closer, his usual habit, but she stiffened. For a moment, he froze, sensing something had changed. Then slowly, his arm retreated. Silence stretched between them, cold, thick, and suffocating. Danielle stared at the darkness behind her eyelids. Tonight, she had broken inside. Quietly, completely, in a way Marcus didn't even notice. And in that silence, she realized something terrifying. This was only the beginning of the storm. Danielle woke up before the sun. Her eyes burned from the tears she shed last night, but she didn't have the luxury of breaking down again. Not with Marcus sleeping inches away, breathing softly as if nothing in the world was wrong. She quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him. She needed space. She needed air. She needed to think. In the kitchen, she gripped the counter, staring blankly at the refrigerator. The house felt colder than usual, the walls echoing with a new kind of emptiness, the kind that comes after trust is broken. A few minutes later, she heard slow footsteps behind her. Marcus. "Morning," he said casually, stretching. "You were knocked out last night. Everything okay?" His voice was too normal, too relaxed, too guilty. Danielle didn't turn around. She simply nodded. "I didn't sleep well." He stepped closer. "Nightmares again?" She swallowed hard. If only it was a nightmare. If only she could wake up from reality. Instead, she forced a small smile. "Yeah, something like that." Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind, his familiar warmth pressed against her back, but instead of comfort, she felt sick. She gently pulled away. He frowned. "Sure you're okay?" Danielle finally turned to face him. She studied his expression, searching for even a flicker of remorse, guilt, hesitation, anything that might confirm what she saw last night. But he looked calm, confident, fake. "Just tired," she said softly. Marcus kissed her forehead, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. "I'll text you when I get to work." Her voice nearly cracked. "Marcus, are you really working late again tonight?" He paused for only a second, 1 second too long. Then he forced a smile. "Yeah, big projects. You know how it is." Her heart twisted. She did know. She had seen exactly what his work looked like. When the door closed behind him, Danielle exhaled shakily. She felt anger rising through her, slow but fierce. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was a man lying straight to her face. She grabbed her phone and stared at the message he sent last night. Running late, don't wait up. Love you. Her fingers clenched around the device. The betrayal was sharp, cold, paralyzing. But as the morning sun crept through the blinds, something inside her shifted. Not rage, not revenge, clarity. She whispered to herself, I'm going to find out the truth. Not by confronting him blindly, not by crying alone, and not by pretending everything was fine. She would uncover everything and then decide what her heart deserved. This was the moment Danielle finally stopped breaking and started preparing. Danielle spent the entire morning pacing through the house. Every corner, every picture frame, every shared memory felt like a reminder of how deeply Marcus had been woven into her life. But now, those memories didn't warm her, they chilled her. Because she didn't know which moments were real and which were already poisoned by lies. Around noon, she finally sat down with her laptop. Her hands hovered over the keyboard. She wasn't the kind of woman who snooped. She believed in boundaries. She believed in trust. But Marcus had already crossed those lines, without hesitation, without guilt. So she whispered to herself, if he's hiding something, I need to know. She opened their shared phone plan dashboard. It wasn't hacking. It wasn't illegal. They both paid for the plan. Her stomach tightened as the call records loaded. At first, everything looked normal. Family calls, work numbers, spam calls. But then she noticed it. A number. Repeated too many times. Late night calls, early morning messages, midday check-ins, even at hours when Marcus claimed he was in meetings. The number wasn't saved in his contacts, but it didn't need a name. Not for Danielle. She recognized the area code, the same area where that office alley was last night. The more she scrolled, the colder she felt. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't harmless. This was deliberate. A pattern of lies. Her heart raced as she clicked the message log. Most messages were deleted from Marcus's phone, but they still existed on the online record. Are you still coming? Same place as last time? Be careful. I need to see you. Danielle pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. This wasn't emotional support. This wasn't friendship. This wasn't work. This was an affair. Concrete, documented, impossible to deny. Just then, her phone rang, making her jump. Marcus. She let it ring twice before picking up, forcing her voice to stay steady. Hey, she said quietly. He sounded rushed. Just checking on you. You seemed off this morning. Off? She wanted to laugh. She wanted to scream. But instead, she asked, what time will you be home tonight? Marcus hesitated. Late. Maybe 10, maybe later. It depends. She closed her eyes. Another lie. A dagger she could predict before it even hit. Okay, she said softly, her voice calm, controlled, dangerously steady. Be careful. He chuckled lightly. Of course. Love you. Danielle's throat tightened. Love you too. But as soon as the call ended, she whispered to the empty room, not for long. The truth was out. The evidence was real. And now, for the first time, Danielle felt something powerful rising inside her. Not heartbreak, not fear, strength. Tonight, while Marcus lied again, she would take the next step. She would uncover who the other woman was, and then everything would change. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. Danielle couldn't focus on anything, not food, not work, not the half-finished laundry sitting on the couch. Her mind was locked on one thing only. Who was the woman? Not knowing her name felt like torture. Knowing Marcus was giving someone else his time, his attention, his affection, it felt like a knife twisting deeper with every passing hour. By 5 p.m., Danielle had made up her mind. She wasn't going to confront Marcus yet. She wasn't going to explode in anger. Not until she had the full truth in her hands. So she opened her laptop again. And this time, she took a step she never imagined she'd take. She pulled up Marcus's office website. A list of employees appeared. Dozens of faces, dozens of names. But her gaze locked on one instantly. A woman with long brown hair, a small, sharp smile, and a confidence that practically leaked from the photograph. April Jennings, project coordinator. Danielle leaned back slowly. Her heart thudded. This woman looked exactly like the silhouette she saw in the car last night. The hair, the shape of her face, the posture, it matched perfectly. She clicked on April's profile. Work email, work phone number, team photos, and in one of those photos, Marcus was standing right next to her, smiling, comfortable, too comfortable. Danielle felt a cold wave trickle down her spine. A part of her had been hoping, praying that maybe she had misjudged the situation, that maybe her fears were exaggerating things, but this was too close, too familiar. She zoomed into the team photo. April's hand rested lightly on Marcus's arm, just enough to look friendly, just enough to hide in plain sight, just enough to drive a hole straight through Danielle's chest. She whispered, "So it's you." April Jennings, the woman who had stolen her husband's attention, the woman Marcus was lying for, the woman who sat in his car late at night. Danielle's breath shook as she scrolled further. April had a public profile on social media, nothing too personal, but enough to see her face clearly, enough to feel the truth slamming into her. She shut her laptop and pressed her palms over her eyes. Knowing the name didn't make the pain easier. It made it real, sharp, undeniable. At 8:13 p.m., Danielle's phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Work is insane tonight. Don't wait up. Grabbing elite dinner with the team." She stared at the message, her jaw tightening. Her reply was simple, cold, perfectly controlled. "Okay, have a good night." But as she set her phone down, her eyes hardened. Tonight, she wouldn't sit home crying. Tonight, she would find out exactly where Marcus really was. And for the first time in days, Danielle felt something fierce spark inside her. Not fear, not heartbreak, purpose. Danielle waited until the sky turned completely dark. She moved through the house like a ghost, every step quiet, every breath controlled. Her heart raced, but not from fear, this time from determination. She wasn't going to sit and wonder anymore. She grabbed her keys, slipped on a jacket, and headed out. As she drove away from the house, she checked the time. 9:02 p.m. Marcus had texted her only 40 minutes ago, claiming he was working late and getting dinner with the team. Tonight, Danielle intended to see the truth with her own eyes. She drove straight to Marcus's office, and like before, the building was dark, empty, closed for the night. No cars in the front lot. But she didn't stop there. She drove around the back again, slowly, carefully. Her breath caught. His car. The same spot, the same alley. He wasn't alone. Danielle parked half a block away, her hands trembling as she adjusted her rear-view mirror to get a clearer view. A woman stood beside Marcus's car. her hair catching the dim alley light, her silhouette painfully familiar. April. Danielle's chest tightened so fast it hurt to breathe. Her breath controlled. Her heart raced, but not from fear. This time, from determination. She wasn't going to sit and wonder anymore. She grabbed her keys, slipped on a jacket, and headed out. As she drove away from the house, she checked the time. 9:02 p.m. Marcus had texted her only 40 minutes ago, claiming he was working late and getting dinner with the team. Tonight, Danielle intended to see the truth with her own eyes. She drove straight to Marcus's office, and like before, the building was dark, empty, closed for the night. No cars in the front lot. But she didn't stop there. She drove around the back again, slowly, carefully. Her breath caught. His car. The same spot, the same alley. He wasn't alone. Danielle parked half a block away, her hands trembling as she adjusted her rearview mirror to get a clearer view. A woman stood beside Marcus's car, her hair catching the dim alley light, her silhouette painfully familiar. April. Danielle's chest tightened so fast it hurt to breathe. Her Marcus stepped out of the driver's seat, laughing, actually laughing, a deep, carefree laugh she hadn't heard from him in months. He leaned against the car as April walked closer, her arms folded flirtatiously. Danielle watched as if glued in place, her body frozen, her heart shattering in slow motion. Marcus brushed a strand of hair off April's face. Danielle's stomach twisted. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a friendship. This was intimacy. Undeniable. Open. Comfortable. Then it happened. April stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Marcus's neck. He didn't push her away. He held her. Tightly. As if she belonged there. Danielle pressed her hand over her mouth, fighting back the cry that threatened to break out. Tears filled her eyes, blurring the scene, but she couldn't look away. After a long moment, April whispered something in Marcus's ear. He smiled. Not the strained smile Danielle had been seeing at home, not the stressed, distracted face he always used with her recently. A real smile. A warm one. One that hurt Danielle more than any betrayal should. Marcus leaned in. Their lips met. A slow, deliberate kiss. Danielle's entire world stopped. It didn't feel real. It felt like she was watching a scene from someone else's life, someone else's heartbreak. But it was hers. Her fingers dug into the steering wheel, knuckles white. Her heart felt like it was sinking into her stomach, heavier with every second. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She couldn't move. But she forced herself to stay quiet, to watch, to remember, to let the truth burn itself into her mind permanently. Because from this moment on, nothing would ever be the same. After several painful minutes, Marcus and April got inside his car. The headlights flashed on. Danielle ducked low, pulse hammering in her ears. The car pulled away from the alley. Danielle waited until they turned the corner. Then she whispered, her voice breaking. I saw everything, Marcus. Everything. Her tears finally fell, but not with the helplessness of before. These tears were different. This time, they fueled something stronger. A decision. After tonight, Danielle would never be the same woman again. Danielle didn't chase Marcus's car. She just sat there, trembling, staring at the empty alleyway where her marriage had collapsed right in front of her. Her heartbeat felt uneven, every breath sharp as glass. The night was too quiet, the darkness too heavy, and her world too painfully real. For a long moment, Danielle clutched the steering wheel and whispered through shaking lips, "It's over, isn't it?" But shock didn't let her fully process it. Not yet. Not tonight. She finally started her engine and drove home in silence. No music, no thoughts. Just the fragile sound of her own breathing trying to stay steady. When she walked into the house, it felt foreign, cold, wrong. She dropped her keys on the counter and sank into the chair at the dining table. Her hands were still shaking when she took out her phone. There were 2 new messages from Marcus. "Done with the team, heading home soon. You awake?" Danielle stared at the messages. Team? Dinner? Work? Every word was another lie. Casual, comfortable, practiced. She typed a reply, but deleted it instantly. This wasn't the moment to confront him. Not yet. Not while she was this raw, this broken, this vulnerable. If she confronted him now, he would twist the story, gaslight her, deny everything, make her feel crazy, make her question what she saw with her own eyes. No, she wouldn't give him that power. She needed control. She needed a plan. She needed to decide what she wanted, not what he wanted her to believe. For now, she typed something neutral. "I'm home. See you soon." Nothing more. A lie for a lie. Minutes later, she heard the front door unlock. Marcus walked in, the smell of his cologne mixed with something faintly unfamiliar, another wound across her heart. He looked annoyed, almost stressed as he dropped his jacket. Long night, work never ends. Danielle studied him carefully. His expression, his tone, his body language. Everything looked normal, too normal. A man who had just kissed another woman and had the confidence to come home without guilt. He stepped closer and kissed Danielle lightly on the forehead. Her body stiffened. If he noticed, he pretended not to. "You okay?" he asked, grabbing a glass of water. "You look tired." Tired. The word echoed painfully. She wasn't tired. She was devastated. Yet she forced a small nod. "Long day." Marcus shrugged as if her pain was irrelevant. He didn't see her red eyes. He didn't sense the tremble in her hands. He didn't notice anything. Or worse, he didn't care. When he went to the bathroom to shower, Danielle leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. The sound of running water filled the silence of the house. And that's when she realized something with chilling clarity. She couldn't trust the man she once trusted more than anyone. He could lie to her face. He could cheat. He could pretend nothing was wrong. And he was good at it. Very good. Danielle inhaled deeply, straightened her back, and wiped the tears gathering in her eyes. Tonight wasn't her breakdown. Tonight was her awakening. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't blind. She wasn't stupid. She had seen the truth. And from this moment forward, she would not be the woman who cried in silence. She would be the woman who planned her next move. The betrayal was real. The pain was real. But so was her strength. Danielle barely slept. She lay awake beside Marcus, staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully, unaware or unconcerned about the damage he had caused. His breathing was steady, deep, calm. The breathing of a man with no guilt. Just before dawn, Danielle slipped out of bed. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and stood by the window as the early morning light crept over the neighborhood. A strange calm washed over her. Not peace, but clarity. Last night had broken something inside her. But it had also built something new. Not revenge, not hatred, not bitterness, awareness. She finally understood the truth. Marcus wasn't going to stop lying. He wasn't going to confess. He wasn't going to admit anything unless she cornered him with undeniable evidence. And even then, he might still deny it. She needed to be smart, careful, strategic. She wasn't fighting for their marriage anymore. She was fighting for herself. Around 7 a.m., Marcus walked into the kitchen, stretching and yawning. "Morning," he said, kissing her cheek. "You're up early again." Danielle forced a small smile. "Couldn't sleep." He nodded sympathetically, grabbing a mug. "You should try meditation or something. Your anxiety's getting worse." The irony nearly made her laugh. My anxiety? Her anxiety wasn't the problem. His infidelity was. Instead, she just said softly, "Maybe you're right." Marcus sipped his coffee and glanced at her. "You're sure everything's okay between us? You seem distant." Distant. The word stung. But Danielle held her expression steady. "I'm fine," she lied smoothly. "Just tired. We'll talk later." Marcus nodded, satisfied with her answer, satisfied with her lie. Danielle realized in that moment he didn't suspect a thing. He thought she was still the trusting wife, still the soft-hearted woman who believed in him without question, still the easy target for his excuses. He had no idea she had seen everything. When he left for work, Danielle stood by the door and watched him walk away. His keys jingled, his bag swung at his side, his posture relaxed. He didn't look back, not even once. She closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. This was the first lie she had ever told Marcus. A small one, a strategic one, but it changed everything. Because now, they were no longer a couple living in the same story. Marcus was living in a comfortable lie. Danielle was living in the truth. And she was going to use that truth carefully. She walked to the mirror, studied herself, and whispered, "It's my turn to stop being afraid." Today, she would start preparing, gathering proof, protecting herself, building her strength. Marcus didn't know it yet, but Danielle was no longer the woman he could deceive. This chapter of her life was shifting, quietly, powerfully, and permanently. The house felt too quiet after Marcus left for work. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the heavy kind. The kind that presses on your chest and whispers, "Something is ending." Danielle stood in the living room, staring at the couch where she and Marcus had once spent lazy Sundays, laughing at dumb movies and sharing popcorn. Those memories hurt now. Every one of them. But she didn't have time to fall apart. Not today. Not anymore. She walked to her desk, opened her laptop, and took a deep breath. It was time to prepare. Not for confrontation, not for drama, but for self-protection. She opened a new private folder, titled simply, "Insurance." Inside, she started collecting everything. Screenshots of Marcus's late texts, the call logs with April's number, the messages with timestamps, the team photo with Marcus and April, her notes about the alley, the kiss, the lies. She documented everything with cold precision. She wasn't doing this to destroy Marcus. She was doing this because she finally understood. A liar will always lie. A betrayer will always twist the story. And when confronted, Marcus would likely say, "You misunderstood. That wasn't what it looked like. You're overreacting. It's your anxiety." Not anymore. Not with proof. Once everything was saved, Danielle added a password, something only she would know. Then she sat back, exhaled, and whispered, "This is for me. Not revenge, not punishment, just protection." A knock at the front door startled her. She hesitated before opening it. It was her neighbor, Mrs. Clark, a kind older woman who lived 2 houses down. She held a warm smile and a homemade muffin tray. "I begged too many this morning. Thought you might like some." Danielle wasn't prepared for kindness. Not today, not when she was holding so much pain inside. Her eyes watered suddenly. Too fast, too much. "Oh, sweetheart," Mrs. Clark said gently, stepping closer. "What's wrong?" Danielle shook her head. She couldn't say it. Not yet. But Mrs. Clark placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone." Those simple words broke something inside her. Not in a painful way, but in a releasing way. For the first time since the betrayal began, Danielle let herself cry in front of someone. Not completely, not fully, just enough for the dam to crack. Mrs. Clark hugged her softly, the kind of hug that feels like a blanket around a shivering heart. "You're stronger than you think," the older woman whispered, "and when the time comes, you'll know what to do." Danielle nodded, wiping her eyes. After Mrs. Clark left, Danielle stood in the doorway, clutching the muffins like a lifeline. She realized something important. She didn't need to fight this battle alone. She had people who cared, people who would support her, people who would stand beside her if the storm got worse. For the first time in days, Danielle felt a tiny spark of warmth. Not happiness, not hope, but courage. She whispered to herself, "I'm not alone. I can do this." And in that moment, her heart didn't feel quite as heavy. The storm hadn't passed, but she had just taken her first step towards surviving it. Danielle didn't wake up that morning. She rose, the way people rise after a night of fighting their own memories. Her eyes were swollen, her throat sore from crying until she ran out of tears. The cheap motel room felt colder than usual, like even the walls were mourning with her. For a few seconds, she forgot everything. Then the truth rushed back so violently it almost knocked the breath out of her. Marcus, April, the affair, the child, the home that wasn't hers anymore. She reached for her phone, praying none of it was real, but the message on the screen reminded her, "Come get your things. April needs the space. Marcus." Her fingers trembled as she reread it. Not, "We need to talk." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "April needs the space." Danielle pressed her palm against her heart, as if trying to keep herself from breaking all over again. Today, she had to go back to that house. Not as a wife, not as a partner, but as a stranger piecing up the pieces of a life that had been stolen from her. Walking toward a home that no longer knew her. The drive felt endless. She kept seeing flashbacks. Marcus laughing beside her during road trips, his hand resting on hers, the songs they used to sing together. The silence in the car now felt like a ghost. When she pulled into the driveway, something inside her tightened. The house looked the same, but it didn't feel like hers anymore. Her home was now someone else's victory. She stood there for a full minute, unable to move, afraid that walking inside would hurt more than discovering the affair. And it did. The moment she entered the door. The scent hit her first. Her vanilla candles, gone, replaced by a harsh citrus perfume, April's smell. Her photos on the wall were replaced with empty spaces. The throw blanket she loved was missing. Even her coffee mug, her favorite mug, was gone from the kitchen counter. She felt erased. Danielle whispered to herself, "Hold it together. Just hold it together." But her voice cracked. The encounter she wasn't ready for. She turned, and there he was, Marcus, the man she loved, the man she defended, the man she believed would never destroy her. He looked tired, irritated, but not guilty. "You're late," he said. Just like that. No softness, no remorse, no humanity. Danielle swallowed the pain. "I came as fast as I could." "Well, try to be quick. April's still sleeping," he said, rubbing his neck. Danielle froze. Sleeping? In their room? In the bed they once shared? It wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was humiliation. Her lashes trembled, but she refused to cry in front of him. "Just tell me where my things are," she said. He pointed toward the stairs without looking at her. She walked past him, her chest burning with shame she didn't deserve. Packing the pieces of a broken life. Upstairs, the room looked unfamiliar. Her side of the bed was missing the dent where she used to sleep. Her perfume bottles were replaced with April's. Even the curtains were different, lighter, cheaper, loud. It was like someone had taken a knife and carved her out of her own story. Danielle touched the dresser, remembering nights they stood there brushing their teeth together, remembering how he once hugged her from behind and whispered, "This is home because you're in it." Now those words felt cruel. She opened the closet. Her clothes were stuffed into boxes, wrinkled, unwashed, handled carelessly. She sank to her knees. This was her life, her marriage, 7 years of love, folded into cardboard like it meant nothing. Her hands shook as she touched each item. The sweater she wore on their first Christmas together, the dress he bought her for their anniversary, the scarf he wrapped around her during their first winter. Every piece whispered, "You gave your all, and it still wasn't enough." Tears finally spilled, silently falling on the clothes she once wore with joy. Danielle pressed her forehead against the box and cried, not for Marcus, not for April, but for the version of herself that believed love couldn't break this way. A note that shattered whatever was left. As she reached for the last box, something white slipped out and fell on the floor. A note. Her heart stopped. She picked it up, expecting something of hers, but it wasn't her handwriting. It was April's. "Don't feel bad. He told me you two were basically done anyway. A." Danielle felt her lungs collapse. Basically done? Was that what Marcus told her? Was that how he justified the betrayal? Her cry turned into a choked sound, a painful half-whisper. "Oh God, what did I let happen to me?" She didn't crumble. She shattered. But this time, she let herself break. Fully, completely, honestly. Because pretending to be strong wasn't strength anymore. Letting it hurt was. Leaving with the last pieces of her dignity. When she finally finished packing, she walked downstairs with quiet steps. Marcus looked up briefly. "You done?" She nodded. Her tears had dried into a cold, calm numbness. "Yeah, that's everything." She reached for the door, paused, and said softly, almost to herself, not to him, "You didn't just lose a wife today, Marcus. You lost the only person who ever loved you without conditions." She didn't wait for his reaction. She walked out, not as a broken woman, but as someone stepping out of a past she no longer owed anything to. And when the door closed behind her, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the first breath after drowning. Danielle sat in her car for almost 10 minutes before she could even turn the key. Her eyes burned, her hands trembled, her breath kept catching in her throat as if the world had suddenly shrunk around her. Boxes were piled in the back seat. Her clothes, her memories, her life, compressed and stuffed into cardboard. It felt like everything she worked for, everything she loved, everything she believed in was now behind her, literally and emotionally. She whispered to herself, "Just drive, please just drive." But she couldn't. Her heart wouldn't let her. Breaking down on the side of the road. When she finally pulled out of the driveway, she didn't go far. The moment she reached the end of the same street where she and Marcus once walked hand in hand, her vision blurred. Her chest tightened. Her fingers slipped from the steering wheel. She couldn't breathe. She pulled over, gripping her chest like someone had stabbed her. For the first time since she discovered the affair, Danielle broke completely. Not the quiet, controlled tears she let fall alone. This was different. This was years of love collapsing. This was betrayal screaming through her bones. This was her finally realizing, he didn't just cheat. He replaced me. She cried so hard her whole body shook. She cried until she couldn't hear anything except her heartbeat pounding against her ribs. People always say heartbreak feels like dying. Danielle finally understood why. A stranger's unexpected kindness. As she sat there, head in her hands, she heard a soft knock on her car window. She looked up, startled. A woman, late 40s, gentle eyes, wearing a Starbucks apron, stood beside her with concern on her face. "Honey, are you okay?" the woman asked softly. Danielle tried to speak, but only a broken sound came out. The woman didn't ask questions. She simply opened the passenger door, slow, respectful, cautious, and sat beside her. "You don't have to tell me anything. Just breathe." Those two words made Danielle collapse into a fresh wave of tears. Sometimes strangers see the pain we hide better than the people we loved for years. The woman handed her a napkin and placed a warm hand on her back. "I've been there. Someone broke you, didn't they?" Danielle nodded, her voice cracking. "My husband. He replaced me, just like that." The woman's eyes softened with empathy. "Then he was never your husband, not truly." Danielle cried harder, because hearing that truth from a stranger made it real in a way Marcus never would. The moment Danielle chose herself. After a while, when her breathing steadied, the woman handed her a small cup. "I made you hot chocolate. Didn't know if you'd want coffee. You looked like you needed warmth more than caffeine." Danielle took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "You'll survive this," the woman said firmly, "and one day you'll be the one sitting beside another woman telling her the same thing." Those words didn't heal Danielle, but they planted something tiny inside her. Strength, or at least the promise of strength. When the woman finally left, Danielle wiped her tears, looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror, and whispered, "I'm not done. Not yet." Returning to the motel room, different than before. Back in the motel room, Danielle placed the boxes one by one on the floor, but instead of collapsing into despair again, she stood there, quiet, thoughtful. Her heart was still shattered, but now she understood something important. She wasn't broken because she was weak. She was broken because she loved honestly in a world where Marcus didn't. And that wasn't her failure. It was his. She sat on the bed, wiped her tears, and breathed deeply. This isn't the end of me. This is the end of us. That's different. For the first time since her world collapsed, Danielle felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Hope. Small, fragile, but real. The next morning, Danielle woke up with the same headache that had become her new normal. A deep, pulsing ache. Part exhaustion, part heartbreak, part everything she was trying to hold together. She reached for her phone out of habit, expecting a good morning text from Marcus like she used to get for years. But the screen was empty, plain, cold, just like her new reality. For a few seconds, she stared at the wallpaper on her phone, a picture she had forgotten to delete. It was her and Marcus at the beach, laughing, sun in their eyes, his arms wrapped around her waist. Danielle's breath caught. She turned the phone face down on the blanket before the emotions could swallow her again. The loneliest breakfast. She walked to the small motel breakfast area, plastic chairs, stale cereal, watery coffee. No one looked at her. No one cared. And for the first time, she realized how invisible heartbreak makes a person. She poured herself coffee and sat alone at a corner table. Every couple who walked past her, laughing, whispering, holding hands, felt like a reminder of what she had lost. Her eyes burned and she blinked hard. Not here. Not now. She refused to cry over someone who didn't value her tears. A call from the past. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A name she hadn't expected. Emily, her best friend from college. They hadn't spoken much in years. Life, work, distance, and the truth, Danielle had slowly isolated herself during her marriage, making Marcus her entire world. That world had ruined her. Now she needed the pieces Emily still held. Danielle hesitated before answering. Hello? Danny? Oh my God, you okay? Your voice sounds wrong. Just those words made her throat tighten. No, Danielle whispered. I'm not okay. Emily paused. Not awkwardly, not judgmentally, but in the way real friends pause when their heart breaks for you. Where are you? Tell me everything. And Danielle did. Not the full story, she wasn't strong enough yet, but enough for Emily to understand she was hurting. Emily didn't yell. She didn't say, I told you so. She didn't ask why Marcus cheated. She simply said, Danny, come stay with me. Danielle's breath hitched. I can't. I don't want to be a burden. You were never a burden, but staying in that motel alone, that's punishment you don't deserve. Tears finally slipped down Danielle's face. Silent, steady, painful. Give me the address, Emily said gently. I'm coming to get you. Danielle wiped her cheeks. No, I'll come. I need to learn how to stand again. Emily let out a soft sigh, the kind that holds love, not pity. I'll leave the door unlocked. Packing the last of her sadness. Back in her room, Danielle packed the few things she had unpacked. The motel room felt different now. Not like a hiding place, more like a temporary shelter. A cocoon she was ready to climb out of. She touched the boxes Marcus had shoved her life into and whispered, You didn't destroy me, Marcus. You just forced me to find myself again. It still hurt. God, it hurt so much. But it didn't feel hopeless anymore. She took the boxes one by one to her car, her steps slow but steady. Each step felt like progress, like healing, like choosing herself. The road to Emily's house. The drive to Emily's was quiet. Not the suffocating silence from yesterday. This silence was thinking silence, the kind where your mind is trying to stitch itself back together. As houses passed by, Danielle told herself, "This is not the end of my story." She didn't know what the next chapter would look like. She only knew she wasn't going to suffer alone anymore. And for the first time since the nightmare began, Danielle didn't feel like she was falling. She felt like she was moving toward safety, toward healing, toward a version of herself she thought she had lost forever. Emily lived in a quiet neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, warm porches, wind chimes swaying softly in the breeze. It was the kind of place where life slowed down just enough for a broken heart to breathe. When Danielle pulled up to her driveway, she didn't get out immediately. She sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, whispering to herself, "You're safe now. You're safe." But safety doesn't always feel safe at first. Sometimes it feels unfamiliar, like stepping into a life you forgot you deserved. The door that opened without knocking. Before she could gather the courage to ring the bell, the front door swung open. Emily stood there, barefoot, messy bun, oversized sweatshirt, the same old college warmth in her eyes. No judgment, no questions, just love. "Danny," she whispered, her voice breaking just a little. The way she said Danielle's name, soft, emotional, full of history, made Danielle's knees almost buckle. Emily walked straight to her, wrapped her arms around her, and held her tight. Not the polite kind of hug people give out of sympathy. This was the kind of hug that says, "I've got you. You're not falling alone anymore." Danielle's body collapsed into that embrace, and for the first time in days, she exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding. A room ready before she arrived. Emily had already prepared a guest room. Fresh sheets, a soft blanket, a candle lit on the bedside table, a small vase of flowers, white lilies, Danielle's favorite from college days. Danielle paused at the doorway, tears filling her eyes again. "You remember," she whispered. Emily smiled gently. "I remember everything about you, even the parts you forgot." Those words hit harder than any breakup ever could. Danielle realized how long she had lived without being seen. Marcus never remembered details, never cared about the small things, never truly tried. But here Emily was, after years of barely keeping in touch, remembering the things that made Danielle feel human. A conversation she didn't know she needed. They sat on the bed together, legs crossed, like two girls back in their dorm room. Emily held her hand. "Tell me, as much or as little as you can." Danielle stared at the floor, voice shaking. "He chose her, Em. He lied to me. He made me feel crazy, and then he just threw me away." Emily squeezed her hand tightly. "You weren't thrown away. You were set free from someone who never deserved you." Danielle cried silently, tears sliding down her face, dripping onto her hands. Emily didn't rush her, didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix what wasn't fixable in one night. She just stayed. Sometimes the most powerful help is presence. The first meal that didn't taste like pain. Emily cooked her dinner, simple pasta, garlic bread, nothing fancy, but Danielle tasted something she hadn't tasted in days. Warmth, comfort, care. She forced a small smile. "I forgot what real food tastes like." Emily laughed lightly. "That motel toast doesn't count as food." Danielle almost laughed too. It felt strange, but good, like her soul was stretching after being curled up in pain for too long. When night came, the fear softened. Later that evening, after Emily went to sleep, Danielle lay alone in the guest bed. It felt strange, Safe, but strange. Her mind wandered. Marcus's smile, April's laugh, her home, the betrayal, the empty side of the bed. 1,000 memories and emotions crashed over her like waves. She clutched the blanket tightly and whispered to herself, "You're not alone anymore. You're not unwanted. You're not forgotten." Slowly, her breathing eased. For the first night since everything shattered, Danielle didn't cry herself to sleep. She didn't wake up from nightmares. She didn't feel abandoned. Instead, she felt held by a friend, by a home, by a new beginning she never expected. And somewhere deep in her heart, a small light flickered again, weak but real. For the first time in what felt like forever, Danielle woke up without panic clutching her chest. No nightmares, no cold sweat, no empty bed beside her reminding her of betrayal. Just quiet, soft morning light, and a sense of gentleness. She lay still for a moment, letting the feeling sink in. It didn't mean she was healed. It didn't mean the pain was gone. But for the first time, her heart wasn't screaming. It was whispering. And whispers are easier to face. A kitchen that smelled like home. When she walked into the kitchen, she found Emily already there, hair messy, wearing fuzzy socks, humming softly as she made coffee. Danielle paused in the doorway, watching her friend move around like nothing had changed, like life could still be simple. Emily glanced over and smiled warmly. "Good morning, sunshine." Danielle let out a soft, almost shy smile. "Morning." A mug was already on the counter, one of those oversized ceramic ones you hug with both hands. Emily nudged it toward her. "Sit, drink, breathe." Danielle wrapped her hands around the mug. The warmth seeped into her fingers and, strangely, into the ache in her chest. "Thank you," Danielle whispered. "Really, for all of this." Emily shrugged lightly. "That's what friends are for, to hold you when you can't hold yourself." Danielle's eyes filled again, but this time the tears didn't fall. They just shimmered, soft, controlled. Progress. The text that made her heart drop. Her phone buzzed on the table. She froze. Emily set her spoon down slowly. "Do you want to check it?" Danielle nodded. Her hand trembled slightly as she picked up the phone. It was from Marcus. Just one message. "We need to talk." Her heart tightened. So simple, so predictable, so painfully familiar. Emily leaned on the counter, watching her carefully. "What are you feeling?" she asked gently. Danielle stared at the text. 1,000 emotions flashed through her mind. Fear, anger, longing, confusion, exhaustion. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know. I don't know who I am with him anymore, and I don't know who he is without me." Emily took a slow breath. "Do you want to reply?" Danielle shook her head immediately. "No, not today. Not when I'm finally breathing." Emily nodded. "That's a good enough reason." Danielle blocked the number with a shaking thumb, then set the phone down like it was a fragile bomb. She didn't delete the contact. Not yet. She wasn't strong enough for that. But she could silence him. And silence was a start. A walk that changed her steps. Emily suggested they walk around the neighborhood for some fresh air. At first, Danielle hesitated. She felt heavy, tired, unsure. But as they stepped outside and the crisp morning breeze touched her skin, she realized how much she needed this. They walked slowly down the path shaded by trees. Birds chirped softly. Leaves rustled above them. Life felt normal in a way Danielle had forgotten existed. At one point, Emily nudged her playfully. This neighborhood is full of single dads who jog every morning." Danielle burst in a laugh, an actual laugh, and covered her face in shock. "Oh my God, stop," she said through her giggles. Emily winked. "Just keeping your options open." For the first time, Danielle didn't panic at the thought. She wasn't ready, not even close, but she wasn't dead inside either. And that was something. The first step towards herself. Later that afternoon, Danielle unpacked her things in the guest room, not in a sad, temporary way, in a settling way, in a rebuilding way. She folded her clothes neatly, arranged her toiletries, placed her journal on the nightstand, and then she found the framed photo of Danielle and Marcus at their wedding. Her stomach twisted. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. But instead of collapsing, she sat on the edge of the bed and looked at it carefully. Not with heartbreak, not with nostalgia, with clarity. "This woman," Danielle whispered, touching her younger self in the photo, "deserved better." She didn't throw the frame. She didn't smash it. She didn't hide it. She simply placed it face down inside a drawer. Not gone, not erased, just put away, like a chapter finished. The day ended differently. That night, Danielle stood at the window watching the quiet street outside. Her heart still ached, but it wasn't drowning her anymore. She whispered to her reflection, "You're healing. Slowly, but you are." And for the first time since everything shattered, she believed it. The sun was setting when Marcus finally walked into the house. A house that suddenly felt too big, too quiet, too empty. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that slaps you in the chest and whispers, "She's gone." Danielle's shoes weren't by the door. Her mug wasn't on the counter. Her soft cardigan wasn't hanging on the chair. Her presence, that warm, grounding, gentle presence, had vanished. Marcus dropped his keys on the table and rubbed his face. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Panic. The empty house that finally spoke. He walked through the rooms one by one. Every corner reminded him of Danielle. The blanket she always curled under, the candles she loved, her hairpin still lying on the dresser. He picked it up. A simple, tiny thing. Yet the moment he touched it, a strange sting pierced his chest, a mixture of regret, fear, and reality. For the first time, Marcus whispered to himself, "What have I done?" But the house didn't answer. It didn't comfort him. It punished him with silence. Calling her and hearing nothing. He grabbed his phone and dialed Danielle's number. Ring, ring, ring. Voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. His throat tightened. He typed a message quickly. "We need to talk, please." But the message didn't deliver. Blocked. The realization hit him like a punch to the stomach. She wasn't angry. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't begging for attention. She was gone. And that terrified him more than anything. When April showed her true colors. As he paced the living room anxiously, his phone buzzed. A message from April. "So, she finally left?" Marcus froze. There was something cruel, almost celebratory in her tone. He replied sharply, "April, this isn't funny." April sent back a voice note, her voice light, dismissive. "Oh, come on, Marcus. You knew she'd leave eventually. She's too sensitive, too emotional, and honestly, too boring." Marcus's stomach dropped. This was not the woman he thought she was. He had mistaken excitement for affection. He had mistaken attention for love. He had mistaken temptation for worth. And now he was stuck between two truths: Danielle, who loved him deeply, and April, who only wanted to win. For the first time, Marcus saw April clearly: manipulative, selfish, cold. But it was too late. He had already chosen her. Marcus's breakdown. He sank onto the couch, the same couch where Danielle once rested her head on his lap. He buried his face in his hands. The weight of his choices collapsed on him, and he whispered to the empty room, "I think I lost her." His voice cracked. For years, Danielle had been his support, his calm, his compass, his home. He thought she'd always stay. He thought she'd always forgive. He thought she'd be there no matter what. But now he understood something harsh and painful. A woman can love you deeply and still walk away when she's done being hurt. He grabbed his phone again, desperate, scrolling through old photos, old texts, old memories. A message from 2 years ago caught his eye. "Danielle, promise me, no matter what, you won't lie to me." "Marcus, never. You're my heart." He felt a painful lump rise in his throat. "I broke you," he whispered into the empty air, "and now you're gone." When a man starts losing a woman who already left. That was the moment Marcus finally understood. Danielle wasn't punishing him. She was protecting herself. And that hurt him more than anything, because it meant she was done, truly done. No yelling, no begging, no crying, just gone. And a woman's silence can be louder than any screaming. Danielle, meanwhile, while Marcus sat alone in his quiet house, drowning in regret, Danielle was at Emily's, wearing clean clothes, sipping warm tea, sitting on a couch that felt finally safe. She wasn't fully healed, but she was away. Away from lies, away from betrayal, away from the man who took her heart for granted. For the first time, she wasn't the one breaking. Marcus was. Because that's how love works. A woman breaks slowly, a man breaks suddenly. And Marcus had just reached his breaking point. April always thought she was clever, smart enough to steal someone's husband, pretty enough to make him choose her, confident enough to play innocent when things got messy. But masks don't stay on forever. And April's was about to crack. A morning without attention. The next day, April strutted into her apartment expecting her phone to light up with messages from Marcus. He always texted her in the morning, always sent good morning emojis, always checked in. Today, nothing. She refreshed, checked signal, checked battery. Still nothing. Her eyes narrowed. So she left and he's still not texting me? Jealousy burned in her like acid. April liked attention more than she liked Marcus, and now she was losing both. Calling him, but this time he didn't pick up. She dialed his number. Ring, ring, ring. Voicemail. She dialed again. Voicemail. April rolled her eyes violently. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me." She tossed her phone on the couch and paced the room. This wasn't part of her plan. Marcus was supposed to chase her, worship her, cling to her once Danielle left. Instead, he disappeared. And April hated being ignored more than anything. The message she shouldn't have sent. Annoyed, she texted him. "What's wrong with you? Did you forget about me already?" A minute later, Marcus replied, "April, I need space. Don't text me today." April's heart stopped. Space? From her? She stared at the screen in disbelief. No, no, no. He's supposed to be falling in love with me now, not pulling away. Her hands shook as she typed again. "Is this because of your wife? She's gone. You don't need to pretend anymore." Marcus didn't reply. Not for 1 minute, not for 10, not for an hour. And for the first time, April felt something unfamiliar. Fear. When manipulation stops working. April wasn't used to losing control, so she did what she always did. She showed up. No warning, no permission, no boundaries. She marched straight to Marcus's house and knocked hard on the door. Once, twice, 3 times. "Marcus, open the door!" No answer. She knocked harder. "Marcus, I know you're in there!" Finally, the door opened, but not fully. Marcus stood halfway behind it, eyes tired, face stressed. April pushed forward, but he blocked the doorway. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice cold. April blinked. This wasn't the Marcus she knew. This wasn't the playful, flirty man who whispered to her at work. This wasn't the man who made promises in secret. This was a man who looked broken, lost, and angry. "Why are you acting like this?" April snapped. "We got what we wanted. She left you. Isn't that what you wanted?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "No, I never wanted her to leave." April froze. Those words sliced through her confidence like a knife. Marcus finally sees April clearly. He stepped outside and closed the door behind him so she couldn't walk in. "April, I made a mistake." April's eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "I thought what we had was real, but it wasn't." April laughed, a sharp, mocking laugh. "Oh, so now you're a saint again. Now you suddenly care about your wife?" Marcus didn't respond. He just stared at her with a look she had never seen before. Regret. "You used me," he said quietly. "You knew exactly what you were doing." April's smile faded fast. "Me? I used you? You're the one who kept coming to me." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're right. I messed up. But I'm not messing up anymore. I need to fix my marriage." April felt something snap inside her. She wasn't losing him. She couldn't lose him. Not after everything she risked. April's true colors explode. "You want to fix your marriage?" she yelled. "She left you, Marcus. She left you because you weren't enough for her." Marcus flinched. That was the first time April said something that truly cut him. But April wasn't finished. "You think she's coming back? She's not. She's weak. She's boring. Stop." Marcus's voice was low, dangerous. "Do not talk about her like that." April's mouth fell open. Everything changed in that moment. Marcus wasn't defending April. He was defending Danielle. And April realized she was losing. Not to Danielle, but to the version of Marcus she never thought would return. The man who actually loved his wife. Marcus leaves her standing there. "I think you should go," Marcus said quietly. April stared at him, stunned. "You're choosing her over me?" Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. April scoffed bitterly. "This isn't over." But Marcus shut the door gently, not in anger, but in finality. It was over. For her, at least. April stood on the porch alone, shaking with rage, humiliation, and fear. Her plan had failed. Her control had slipped. Her mask had shattered. And deep inside, she knew she was not the one Marcus was worried about. Danielle was. Because even in her absence, Danielle was the only woman that mattered. Danielle had held herself together for weeks, strong on the outside, shattering slowly on the inside. But that night, Everything collapsed. The apartment felt too silent, too empty, too unfamiliar. She sat on the floor beside the couch, hugging her knees as the quiet pressed against her chest. She had spent so long fighting for truth, for her dignity, for her sanity, that she hadn't realized how exhausted she truly was. Her phone buzzed. It was another message from Marcus. "Please, Danny, I need to talk just 5 minutes." 5 minutes. The same amount of time it probably took him to betray her. She threw the phone aside as tears finally spilled over. For the first time, she whispered the question she had avoided. Why wasn't I enough? Her voice cracked in the empty room. The loneliness echoed it back like a cruel joke. She tried to distract herself, washed a few dishes, folded clothes, rearranged shelves, pretending order could fix her brokenness. But nothing worked. Her chest tightened until she couldn't breathe. The grief hit harder than any betrayal. The grief of losing the life she thought she would have. She slid down the kitchen cabinet, burying her face in her palms. That's how Mrs. Perez found her, the elderly neighbor who treated her like a granddaughter. She knocked once, then twice, then opened the door quietly. "Sweetheart," Mrs. Perez whispered. Danielle didn't look up. Her shoulders shook silently. The old woman sat down beside her without another word and gently pulled Danielle into her arms. Danielle broke, completely, helplessly, painfully. Her sobs filled the kitchen, raw and trembling. Mrs. Perez stroked her hair. "You don't have to be strong tonight, mija. Let it out. All of it. You've carried too much alone." Danielle cried until she had nothing left, until her body was weak, her throat dry, her heart numb. When she finally lifted her head, her voice was barely a whisper. "Why do people hurt the ones who love them the most?" Mrs. Perez sighed deeply. "Because some people mistake kindness for weakness," she said softly. "But you're not weak, Danielle. You're just human." Danielle leaned against the wall, eyes swollen, breath uneven. Mrs. Perez handed her a warm cup of chamomile tea. "Tonight you broke, yes, but breaking is not the end. It's the beginning of rebuilding." Danielle clutched the cup, letting the warmth steady her trembling fingers. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to feel everything. The betrayal, the abandonment, the loneliness, the heartbreak. And in that painful release, a quiet truth surfaced. She wasn't done. She wasn't defeated. She was just beginning to rise. The night took her strength, but it also gave her clarity. She didn't want Marcus back. She wanted herself back. And starting tomorrow, she would fight for that woman with everything she had left. Morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, gently brushing against Danielle's tired eyes. She woke with a strange heaviness, not the sharp agony she had carried for weeks, but the dull ache of a heart learning how to beat again. Last night she broke. Today she was simply quiet. She made coffee, wrapped herself in a soft sweater, and sat near the window. She didn't feel strong, she didn't feel healed, but for the first time in a long while, she wasn't pretending. Just as she took the first sip, her phone buzzed. She ignored it. She didn't want anything that could disturb the fragile calm she had found this morning, but it buzzed again. She sighed, picked it up, her breath catching when she saw the name. Marcus. Her thumb hovered over the screen before she finally opened it. Marcus. "Danielle, please, I need to tell you something important. Meet me." Her heart tightened. Another message, another attempt to pull her into emotional chaos. She set the phone down, refusing to reply, but before she could walk away, another message flashed. Marcus. "It's about April and the baby. You don't know everything." Danielle froze. A cold shock spread through her. Not everything? What else remained? She grabbed her coat and stepped out. She didn't want answers from Marcus alone. She needed support. Someone who knew her, stood by her, protected her. There was only one person she trusted enough. At Naomi's apartment. Naomi, Danielle's older sister, her only real family in the city, opened the door before Danielle could even knock twice. "What happened? Your text sounded urgent," Naomi said, pulling her inside. Danielle handed her the phone, unable to explain. Naomi read the messages slowly. Her expression shifted from concern to anger to suspicion. "Danielle," she said firmly, "this doesn't sound like a simple apology. It sounds like someone who's scared his lies are about to unravel." Danielle swallowed hard. "I thought everything was already out. I thought I knew the worst." Naomi sat beside her and held her hand. "Sometimes a liar only tells enough truth to survive, and when the situation gets out of their control, the real truth starts slipping out." Danielle felt her chest tighten. Naomi continued, "Think about it. What if this baby story isn't what April claimed? What if Marcus didn't know the full truth either?" Danielle looked up sharply. "You think the baby might not be his?" Naomi didn't answer immediately. Instead, she placed both hands on Danielle's shoulders. "I think you deserve clarity. Not for him, not to fix anything, but so you can finally stop questioning yourself." Danielle looked away, her eyes stinging. Peace. She hadn't felt it in months. After a long silence, she whispered, "I'll meet him, but not alone, not in private." "Good," Naomi said. "You set the boundaries now." Danielle picked up her phone. Her hand shook as she typed. 1 hour, public place. Say everything clearly. She hit send. Naomi wrapped an arm around her. "No matter what he says, you're not facing it alone." Danielle nodded softly. Her heart was unsteady, her breath uneven, but she wasn't that broken woman who cried on the kitchen floor. Whatever truth was coming, she was ready to hear it. Danielle chose a place where the noise of people would keep her grounded. A small coffee shop on Westfield Avenue, one she used to love before her life fell apart. It smelled like warm pastries and roasted espresso. It felt safe. Naomi insisted on coming with her, but Danielle gently refused. "I need to hear this myself," she whispered. Naomi reluctantly agreed and waited in the car outside, close enough if anything went wrong. Danielle walked inside, the air humming with soft music. Her fingers were cold despite the warm room. She found a table near the window, sat down, and tried to steady her heartbeat. Minutes felt like hours. Then the bell above the door chimed. Marcus walked in. He looked nothing like the confident man she once planned a future with. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes tired, his face pale as if sleep hadn't visited him in days. He saw her, exhaled shakily, and walked over. "Danielle, thank you for coming." She didn't respond. She just stared, waiting. He sat across from her, rubbing his hands together nervously. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. "You said you had something important to tell me. Say it." Marcus swallowed hard. "It's about April," he said quietly, "and the baby." Danielle's pulse quickened, but her expression remained calm. Marcus struggled to find words. "She hasn't been honest," he said. "At all." Danielle's eyes narrowed. "Go on." He looked down at his hands. "Danielle, I'm not sure the baby is mine." The world didn't explode. It didn't crash. But it shifted, a quiet, heavy shift that pressed into her chest. She inhaled softly. "Why would you think that now?" Marcus nodded slowly, gathering courage. Because the timelines don't match. Because she kept avoiding prenatal appointments when I tried to go with her. Because last week, she slipped. She said something she shouldn't have. What did she say? Danielle asked. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. She said, "You were never supposed to find out." And when I asked what she meant, she froze. He looked up, his voice cracking. "I think she was seeing someone else." A shaky breath. "Actually, I'm almost sure she was." Danielle sat still. Emotion didn't rush through her immediately. Instead, a strange calm settled over her. A quiet realization. This betrayal, this pain, this entire storm, it wasn't even about her anymore. Marcus ran a hand over his face. "I was stupid. I believed her lies. I ruined us over something that might not even be true." Danielle finally spoke, softly but firmly. "Why are you telling me this now?" His answer came without hesitation. "Because you deserved better, and because I can't move forward without owning the truth." He leaned forward, eyes desperate. "I'm getting a DNA test, and I needed you to hear that from me, not from rumors, not from anyone else." Danielle stared at him for a long moment. "Marcus," she said quietly, "even if the baby isn't yours, what you did still broke us." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know, and I'm sorry. More than I can ever say." He reached out instinctively, but Danielle pulled her hands back. He froze. A painful silence sat between them. After a moment, she stood. "I hope you find your answers," she said calmly, "but those answers won't change the direction of my life anymore." Marcus's face fell. "Danielle, please." "Take care of yourself," she said, gently but firmly. "And whatever the truth is, deal with it." She turned and walked toward the door. Her steps shook, her heart thudded, her breath came uneven, but she didn't stop. Outside, Naomi quickly got out of the car. "Are you okay? What did he say?" Danielle didn't cry, she didn't collapse, she didn't fall apart. She just looked at her sister, her voice steady. "He's not sure the baby is his." Naomi's eyes widened. "And?" "And it doesn't change what he did," said Danielle softly. For the first time in weeks, she felt a strange strength rising from the emptiness. Not victory, not revenge, just clarity. They got into the car. Naomi squeezed her hand as they drove away. Behind them, Marcus stood in the coffee shop doorway, watching her disappear, knowing he had lost her long before the truth arrived. The evening sky was turning a soft gold when Danielle and Naomi reached the apartment. Danielle expected exhaustion, the usual emotional crash after seeing Marcus, but strangely, her mind felt clearer than it had in days. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. Quiet, peaceful, still. Naomi insisted on staying until she was sure Danielle was okay. "Just sit," Naomi said, taking Danielle's coat. "I'll make tea." Danielle nodded, sinking into the couch. She stared at nothing, her thoughts drifting. Marcus wasn't sure the baby was his. April might have lied to them both. Everything she suffered might have been over a lie. But somehow, it didn't break her. It didn't even shake her. The pain was still there, yes, but the part of her that once begged for answers had finally gone silent. She didn't need Marcus's truth anymore to understand her own worth. As she exhaled slowly, a knock came at the door. Naomi stiffened. "Expecting someone?" Danielle shook her head. "No." Naomi walked to the door cautiously and opened it just a few inches. Her eyes widened. She turned back to Danielle. "It's her." Danielle's spine chilled. April, standing there, at her door, alone. Danielle felt her heartbeat slam against her ribs. What is she doing here? Naomi hissed. Before Danielle could speak, April's trembling voice came through the doorway. Danielle, please, I need to talk to you. Danielle stood up slowly. Her hands shook, but not from fear, from the sheer shock of seeing the woman who tore her life apart. April's face was pale, her mascara smudged, her breath uneven. She looked nothing like the confident woman Danielle once saw with Marcus. Naomi stepped forward, protective. You have a lot of nerve showing up here. April shook her head desperately. I'm not here to fight. I need to tell her the truth. The truth? That word again. Danielle swallowed hard and stepped closer. You have 5 minutes, she said quietly. Say what you came to say. April took a shaky breath and looked at the floor. I messed up. I made mistakes I can't undo. Danielle stared, expression unreadable. April swallowed again. The baby? It might not be Marcus's. Silence. A silence so heavy it felt like the walls themselves were listening. Naomi's jaw dropped. Danielle didn't move. April continued, voice cracking. I didn't plan any of this. Marcus was kind to me when I was going through a dark time. I took advantage of that kindness. I lied. I lied because I was scared, and because I didn't want to lose everything. Danielle didn't blink. So you ruined my life instead? She said softly, her voice calm but sharp. April covered her face, shaking. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. And now everything is falling apart. Marcus is done with me. My family won't talk to me. And I'm alone. Naomi stepped forward. That isn't Danielle's problem, she snapped. But April looked only at Danielle, as if she needed her forgiveness more than anyone else's. I know I don't deserve anything from you, whispered April, but I wanted you to hear it from me first, before the tests come back, before the truth explodes everywhere. Danielle felt a strange mixture inside her. Anger, yes. Pain, yes. But also something she didn't expect. Pity. Not for April, but for herself. For all the nights she cried, for all the wounds she carried, for all the worth she questioned over a lie she never even knew was being told. April wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Danielle. I'm so sorry. Danielle finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but firm. I don't hate you, and I'm not here to judge you, but whatever truth comes out next, it won't define my life. April's breath hitched. Danielle continued. You have your consequences, Marcus has his, and I have my peace. April started crying harder. I just wanted to tell you the truth myself. Danielle nodded once. You did. Now go. April hesitated, then turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking. Naomi closed the door, letting out a long breath. Oh my God, Danielle. Are you okay? Danielle sank slowly into the couch. And then, for the first time in a long time, she smiled. A small, tired, but genuine smile. Yes, she whispered. I think I am. Outside, the sky had darkened, but inside her chest, something bright had finally returned. The apartment felt strangely warm after April left, as if her confession had cleared a weight Danielle didn't even realize she'd been carrying. Naomi sat beside her, still stunned. I can't believe she actually came here, Naomi muttered. The nerve, the audacity. Danielle didn't respond immediately. She was staring ahead, her mind quiet, almost peaceful. Naomi placed a hand on her knee. Danny, seriously, are you okay? Danielle leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. Yes, she whispered. Because for the first time, I don't feel confused anymore. I don't feel lost. Everything finally makes sense. Naomi studied her face. You're not shaken. No, said Danielle softly. Not even a little. And it was true. Hearing the truth straight from April's mouth didn't hurt. It healed. It stitched up the places inside her that had been left open for too long. It explained the missing pieces, the strange behaviors, the unanswered questions. It gave her the closure she never thought she'd get. Naomi sighed in relief and gave a gentle smile. You're stronger than you realize. I had to be, Danielle murmured. Later that night. After Naomi left, Danielle made herself a cup of tea and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. She stepped onto her small balcony, looking at the city lights shimmering like tiny promises. She didn't think about Marcus. She didn't think about April. She didn't think about the past. For the first time in months, her future felt open again. Not scary, not uncertain, just open. The crisp night air brushed against her skin. She inhaled deeply and whispered something she had been too afraid to say. I didn't deserve any of that, but I deserve everything good that comes next. The words felt liberating. The unexpected call. Her phone rang inside. She walked in slowly, expecting Naomi or a coworker, but when she saw the name on the screen, her heart paused. Dr. Samuel's OBGYN office. Her brows pulled together. Why were they calling her? She answered slowly. Hello? A calm voice spoke. Hi, is this Danielle Brooks? Yes, this is she. This is Dr. Samuel's office. We're calling because you're listed as the emergency contact for April Reynolds. Danielle froze. Emergency contact? Her mind raced. Yes, I am, Danielle said cautiously. What happened? There was a pause on the other end, a pause filled with something heavy. April is here in the ER. She's stable now, but she had a severe panic episode and fainted. Danielle clutched the phone tighter. The nurse continued softly. She asked for you. Danielle's breath hitched. Me? Why would she ask for me? Because, the nurse said gently, because you're the only name she gave us before she collapsed. Danielle's throat tightened. In the background, she heard muffled hospital sounds, beeping machines, hurried footsteps, distant voices. She's asking if you can come, the nurse added. She's very distressed. Danielle felt a storm begin inside her. Not anger, not pain, not confusion. Something deeper, more complicated. Empathy, responsibility, humanity. She closed her eyes. After everything April had done, after everything she had taken from her, why would she call for Danielle? Naomi's voice echoed in her memory. You have your peace now. Whatever comes next, choose for yourself. Danielle opened her eyes. Her voice was steady when she answered. I'm on my way. She hung up, grabbed her coat, and stepped outside. The night air felt different now. Heavy, uncertain, full of unanswered questions. The storm hadn't ended. It had just changed direction. And Danielle knew what happened next could change everything again. Danielle stood in front of the window of her new apartment. Small, quiet, sunlit, a world away from the chaos she had survived. The city lights shimmered like tiny promises, but her heart was calm, steady, and stronger than ever. It had been 6 months since the truth about Marcus shattered her world. 6 months since Naomi and Lucas helped pull her out of the ruins of a life built on lies. 6 months since therapy, self-reflection, and rebuilding began. And now, she was finally ready. The unexpected message. One morning, Danielle's phone buzzed. Marcus, can we talk? Just once. I owe you an apology. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. Instead, she felt nothing. Not anger, not pain, just clarity. Danielle typed only one sentence. I forgive you, but I won't go back. And she blocked his number forever. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. Sisterhood and healing. That evening, Naomi dropped by with 2 coffees. Look at you, Naomi smiled. My little sister, stronger than all of us. Danielle hugged her tightly. You were my backbone, Danielle whispered. You reminded me who I was when I forgot. Naomi laughed, wiping her eyes. That's what big sisters are for. Lucas later joined them, and the 3 sat together, sharing stories, dreams, and quiet laughter, the kind Danielle hadn't felt in years. The new beginning. With her savings and newfound confidence, Danielle launched her own interior design studio, something she once only dreamed of. The opening day was simple yet beautiful. Naomi handled the decorations, Lucas brought cupcakes, and Danielle stood proudly under a sign that read, Designed by Danielle, Spaces with Soul. She had survived betrayal, she had survived heartbreak, but most importantly, she had found herself again. The final moment. That night, Danielle wrote a letter to her future self. You didn't lose anything, she wrote softly. You gained everything. Truth, freedom, peace, and the courage to choose yourself. She folded the letter, placed it in a small wooden box, and whispered, I'm ready for whatever comes next. Outside, the moon glowed. Inside, Danielle smiled, not because the story ended, but because her real story was just beginning. And dear listeners, if Danielle's journey touched your heart even a little, then remember, every woman who chooses herself deserves a quiet applause. You're not alone. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And here, on the Mother Voice, we honor every broken heart, every brave decision, and every new beginning. If today's story gave you courage or reminded you of your own strength, please show a little love. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because every time you subscribe, you help another mother, sister, or daughter hear a story that might change her life. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, stay well, stay gentle, and always choose yourself.